sense
Right.
either.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning and welcome to this regular meeting of the Pipestone County Commissioners. It is 9 o'clock. These proceedings are recorded. Serving today, we have got Commissioner Luke Johnson, Commissioner Chris Hollingsworth, Commissioner Bruce Koyman, Commissioner Les Nath. Also, we've got our County Administrator, Steve Ewing, and our County HR Coordinator, Kathy Feste. You all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. An agenda was posted, and also everyone received a copy of the agenda in their packet. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on the 945 Central School demolition financing, I'm unsure if Auditor Rice will be able to attend.
I saw Tyler just a moment ago walking in the community room. So he's back in the building.
Right, and
Yep.
we're still not sure if he's going to be able to attend this or not,
okay.
so I think we should, if possible, we should remain flexible on this, and if he
Okay.
can't, we might want to move this to next week, just so that everything clears up.
Okay.
He said he'd try to make it, and Steve is here, Steve Wheats is here, but Tyler's the if right now.
Right,
So
makes sense.
if we can just remain flexible on that, that's really the only thing I've got to
Okay,
Did you hand out that cutting edge?
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
Yep, we got the
that.
addition.
Yep, we got that addition on there for you.
Mr. Chair, with those additions, I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. And opposed, the same. Passes. Also in your packet, you received a copy of the consent agenda, and that this time consists of the minutes of our October 23rd meeting and also our auditor warrants then for October 25th and also of November 2nd. Is there any further question or discussion about that? Okay, I do need a motion to approve the auditor's warrants.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay. The first thing on our agenda then today, as far as our regular business, will be a presentation on our Head Start program presented by Lori Gunnick. Lori, if you come forward, please.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning. Can you introduce yourself and kind of give us a little bit of a background of just what it's all about as well, too?
Okay, I am Lori Gunnick, and I'm the Head Start Director for the 4-county service area that Southwest Minnesota Opportunity Council's CAP agency serves. I have been the Head Start Director, it'll be 7 years in March. With Head Start, there are lots of requirements and reportings. We work with children at or below federal poverty guidelines. This program was begun in 1965 with the War on Poverty by President Lyndon B. Johnson. We work it's a comprehensive program, so we work with the children to help get them ready for school, but we're also working with the families to try to stabilize and strengthen the structure supporting them. Our requirement is to work with families that are at or below federal poverty guidelines. For a family of 4, federal poverty guidelines then are a little over $19,000 a year. So it's a pretty low income base that we are working with. So every year we do a report, and the report is kind of a picture of what occurred during the program year, which is what the packet entails. I don't know if you have any specific questions about Head Start. In the Pipestone County, we have 2 different options. We have a home base option where the home visitor goes into the home weekly for an hour and a half working with both the parents and the children, because we're firm believers in that the parents are the first and most important teacher in a child's life. So we work with them to help develop skills and to parenting, child development, education, those types of things. We also address their needs if there's some challenges that they're facing. Sometimes it may be insurance needs, they may have rental problems, there may be some mental health concerns, and we try to hook them into resources within the community. We also have a center-based option here in Pipestone in which we serve 20 children, and it's a half-day programming. We partner exceptionally well with the Pipestone School District, and we share students, so that way they can get a full day of programming, those that need it. And we partner extremely well. So that is kind of Head Start in Pipestone in a nutshell.
Thank you for that overlook. That's nice to get a little better review of what we are all about.
This was our last program year data, so I thought I would bring it to you. And we look at the data and we analyze it to see where our professional development needs might be, where there are some weaknesses in our programs, where we're excelling, and just use it for that purpose. So the health stats, we report this to the federal government every year, but we had 201 dental exams or screenings for our program year, which was 86%. 68 of our children needed treatment and 48 received the treatment. With the families that are on MA and in this area, it's, as you know, it's really hard to find dentists, so we're pretty excited about your dental clinic. We also do hearing and vision screenings, and we sometimes identify problems before the parents even realize that there are challenges. So, and without being able to hear or see appropriately, it's really hard for the child to learn. They miss out on a lot of stimulus, a lot of information. Our requirement is to serve the highest needs children, and many times we receive we serve children that may have a learning delay. And so the federal government likes to see at least 10% of the children at or below federal poverty guidelines. We have 151 federal children, so that means that we need to serve at least 15. This last program year, we did not meet that requirement, so then we request a waiver. But some of the school districts, it's a little more, it's more difficult to obtain the testing or the diagnoses simply because of the dual languages that are present. So they're not really sure if it's a language challenge or a developmental delay. So we sometimes have trouble meeting that requirement. Some of our program strengths that we found this last year was the growth in the students in their fine motor skills, their gross motor skills, and geography. So our curriculum is set up where they're looking at and observing the children, determining what level of proficiency they have, and then designing both the individual student goals that go home with the parents to work on weekly, and then the classroom activities to make sure we're providing the education at the child's level. And then our lowest scoring area is the phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, and then reading. And the phonological awareness is pretty much every year, and a lot of that is due to the fact that we have so many dual language learners. That it's just a real challenge because the letter sounds aren't the same. Rhyming doesn't happen because when you translate cat and hat, it's not necessarily a rhyming word. So those are some pretty hard concepts to work with the children on. Some of our lowest scoring gains were observing and classifying, personal care, and then healthy behaviors and reading were the lowest gains. We make sure they brush their teeth in the classroom after each meal. On home visits, we do toothbrushing, we do health and safety nights, different things like that. So we work with the families. And the low gain may not be because they're not able to do it. It could be that they come in quite high and there isn't much of a growth to be observed. But some of our highest scoring is measurements and then emotions and book enjoyment. Studies have shown that social emotional development plays a huge factor in a child's ability to be successful in school. So we work with the social emotional aspect. The next charts just show the growth of the students. So the first bar on each graph would be time one, which happens within, I don't know if I've gone too fast, but it happened in the fall of the year, so by mid-October, end of October. Then the next assessment is in January, and then the end of the year. And you can see the growth in the various domains. So that's really important. We can aggregate our data. This was program-wide. The next one is how the boys did in our program, and the steady growth is really good to see. Our assessment scores or tool says if they hit about 4, they're ready for kindergarten.
What age do you start working with it? Because it's early intervention when you talk about the hearing and vision and so forth.
We have some children that are birth through 5 years, so when they're age eligible for kindergarten. Okay. So we have about 28 students in the 4 counties that are birth to 3. And then we have 175 total 3 and 4-year-olds.
So then when they get to kindergarten age and 4 or 5 years, then if the child's not ready for kindergarten, do they stay with the program yet, or?
Head Start used to say if they're age eligible, the school should be ready for them. But with the new standards that came out in 2016, if a child is on an IEP and the IEP team feels that it would be important for the child to stay in Head Start, we can now do that. So they've allowed us a little bit more flexibility to work with the school districts.
An IEP is an individual
Oh.
education plan.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. So the next chart, you'll see the girls. And then the dual language learners is that very colorful chart. The first bar are our dual language learners. The next one would be our English-speaking students in each set. So time 1 would be the 2 blue ones, and then the green, yellow would be time 2, and then time 3. So you can see that the English language learners are growing in proficiency. I had a woman that I work with through partnership. She's in Worthington quite a bit, and she was talking about a young child that she had known for several years that spoke Spanish, and when he talked to her, it was in Spanish. Within a few weeks of being in our Head Start English immersion classroom, he was pretty proficient in English and was able to communicate with her. So we do see a lot of growth. Children that age do just pick up languages and grow very quickly, develop. Our returning students, and then the next graph would be our kindergarten bound. And we also do some data comparison with all of the Head Start programs throughout the state, and also within the state with other early learning childhood programs. So it's good to see that our growth is occurring, it's been good gains, and the children are generally ready. The next set of graphs I show you are the family aspect that we work with. So we partner with the parents to see where their needs might be, and then we do an assessment 3 times a year also. And they just rate themselves on if they're feeling secure, if they need a change, if there's some uncertainty in their life, and they work then to set goals. So as you can see in 17-18, our 176 families set 637 goals, and they accomplished them as identified underneath. So 35% were completed. Only 17 of those 637 goals were completely abandoned. Maybe it was unrealistic or life circumstances changed and what they thought they wanted to try to accomplish in the year just didn't happen.
Can you give us some examples of some of those family goals?
Sometimes it's maybe they're looking for a house to purchase. Maybe they are having like cockroach, bedbug issues. Maybe they want to do English language classes. Maybe some of them want to go back to school. Just different things like that.
Yeah.
Perhaps we've had some challenges where like they're in a rental situation and maybe the furnace isn't working right, or there's some appliances that aren't working, and then we work with the families that way also. And some of the goals are they want to help their child learn English, or they want to help their child get ready for school, and then we help them with that.
And then when you counsel with the families, then you help them set realistic goals, or is that all driven by their needs?
It's driven by their needs, but we then help them break it down so they can understand that to accomplish this goal, you might have to start out with and do the steps. So we just work with them, and Head Start has a lot of resources and materials for our staff to use in working with the families. Some of the goals are to make sure that the children get to school, because if the child isn't in school, then it's hard for them to learn. We also do a parent gauge assessment 2 times a year, and the parent gauge is where we get feedback from the families to see how they felt about the program. And it's a scoring of a 1 to 5. And so building positive relationships, I just picked out a few of the sample questions. The program contributed to how I help my child manage their behaviors or their emotions. Building positive child relationships again. The program helped me gain new knowledge and skills about parenting. The next one is I am encouraged to become involved in helping to improve the program. Our families serve on a policy council, which is similar to a school board, and they help make programming decisions based upon what they see as important. They go to the parent committee meetings that are held at each site monthly, get feedback from the families to see what they would like to see offered in their communities. We're very strongly community focused. Our parent committee attendance, the pink bars are our 16-17 year, and the green bars are the 17-18 year. So you can see most of the months, we had some really good attendance, but some changes over the previous year. For our completed home visits or family advocacy, families that are in a center-based option, we do monthly family advocacy visits to work with the goals to offer family parenting. So those are the number of visits that were completed last year. For our mental health observations, and again, this is all of the information that is reported to the Office of Head Start, and they assess our program based upon this. The reason I'm here today is because I'm requesting a letter of support for our program. Our program will be writing a new recompetition grant. We were placed into the designated renewal category, which means our 5-year grant is up for anyone who would like to apply for it. And the reason that occurred was because of our class scores from 2015. Class measures the child-adult interactions in the classroom, the higher level questioning skills, how we scaffold, those types of things. Our scores were about a whole 1 to 1.5% lower in 2015 than they currently are. So this graph shows the blue line was fall and spring of last year. So as you can see, we've achieved quite a bit of growth. The scores range from 0 to 7. So 7 is the highest that you can go. And we're getting up there pretty close to that 7, which is really good. The last one, instructional support, that's a harder category to work in because there's a lot of, that's where your higher level thinking, your scaffolding, your quality feedback, the feedback loops, so that a conversation lasts more than just 2 or 3 exchanges. You want them, and then the interactions with the children and the children. We're also required to do non-federal share, and the graph shows you that the non-federal share is people donating to the program, families donating, working with their students, filling out the paperwork, attending the policy council meetings, different organizations, volunteering in the classroom, those types of things. We go to the fire department, the libraries, all of that is an ability for us to obtain non-federal share. So in 2016-17, we collected $349,630 worth of non-federal share. And then in 17, it went up just a little bit more. So we have very strong community support and parent involvement. The next page just shows the policy council attendance and the change from one year to the next year. ERSI is our attendance, and 85%, studies show 85% attendance or higher is what we want to strive for, because that is kind of the breaking point where those at 85% and higher score better. If a child falls below 85%, we work with the families and we do an attendance referral or an improvement plan, set a goal to work with them and steps to take on how to help improve that attendance, and then we follow up. The last page is my Building of Dreams picture. I wrote a grant in 2016 and we were awarded funds to build a building down in Worthington, but the weather has not cooperated very well. We had 36 inches of rain clocked down there this last summer. So I have a cement pad now. I do have a whole floor, and I have steel wall structure, but no, it's not buttoned up yet. So we're coming.
Right.
I don't know if you have any questions. I took a little bit more time than I was supposed to, and I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
We've got time. It's nice to have a good overview of the program. That's nice to have a little better comprehension of what's going on. The specific letter of support, do we have a copy of that letter of support that you're looking for?
Would you like me to, I have a template of
That'd be
one
great.
that okay, I can do
I'd
that.
love that. That'd be awesome.
Okay, and we're just required to get letters of support and how the community feels about our program, and just saying that you feel it's a worthwhile program to continue in your county. We have, I didn't tell you how many we have in the home base, and we have 13 families in our home base option this year in Pipestone, and then the 20 center, which are 4 days a week, 3.5 hours a day.
Well, yeah, if you could get Steve a draft of that we could actually take action on. Obviously, we can't take action without having it in front of us, but no, that's fine. You bet. Anybody have any questions at all?
Is that something you want to bring back at the next meeting then?
I think so. I think we'll just put it on the
We'll do it on
agenda.
the, we'll act on the
to
13th.
formalize it, yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you have to come back.
Oh, no.
just to-
Okay.
No, just because we understand the concept of it, and we're pretty much in agreement, we support it, and it's great, but we need to have it here to take action on it, so.
And I appreciate you allowing me to come over and talk about our program.
It's nice also to know that, because we're always concerned, obviously, about our budgets and so forth, too, and to know that this isn't money coming out of the local government, this is coming from federal.
Federal and state.
Yep.
And then the Minnesota Department of Education also has pathway scholarships in which families at 130 to 185% of poverty can apply for, and those scholarships can also be used in our program.
You mentioned the new building then in Worthington, and how big an area is that going to serve? Obviously, you can't have Head Start students from here commuting all the way down there.
It'll be Nobles County.
Yep.
Which is our largest service area. We have 7 classrooms will be there, so it's a 14,000 square foot building.
Does this have anything to do with the desire to have all-day, everyday kindergarten, or is that really not part of part of that Head Start program?
The Office of Head Start is asking that we would move to full-year, full-day programming, which is 1,020 hours per year, which if we do that, it would be 146 7-hour days for the children. They have found that in a high-quality environment, the children just develop and learn. Some programs or some communities, and it's always based on community needs. Some communities, there's such a child care shortage, or those at or below federal poverty guidelines cannot afford child care. So this would be a kind of a bridge to help them be able to keep their job and have a safe, high-quality environment for their child to be in. In our area, the child care, there's shortages for like infant and toddler care, but the preschools between the school districts and the child care programs and Head Start, we seem to be able to meet most of the needs. So our focus is more on supporting and supplementing those programs and working with the families.
Okay, good. And then again, facility-wise, you got the new facility there. Do you have, I certainly have dreams, do you have plans for further expansion of facilities?
Don't ever want write another building grant, but I've learned a lot. I would like to be able to either purchase or build something here in Pipestone because of the varied needs here, and we also have had some challenges with renting where we are. You just never know.
Because you've been in this church basement now for 30-some years.
Yes.
And there's steps, and granted, there's been an elevator added over the years, but there's
Right, but
still
it's
steps.
still, there's steps to get up. So we had a parent who was in a wheelchair, and it was really hard to get them into our classroom.
Yeah.
So we do have some of those challenges. There's also, if I would want to expand services here, I would have to open up our licensing, our state licensing, and then everything in the kitchen needs to be stainless steel, even though we don't prepare the meals, but we do serve meals from there. So that just gets to be a real challenge in meeting those needs.
The other communities, then, what have you got for facilities in those? Is it
In Pipestone and Rock County, we just offer home-based options because the school districts with the ECFE programs and their preschool programs are able to fill that center need. So we're able to focus on the families and do the one-on-one home visits, which it works really well. And then we partner with their ECFEs, or we may offer socialization, which are 2 to 3 times a month where the families come together in the classroom, either at school with the ECFE program or in a building that we rent, and we work on child development. They get to know each other, develop kind of a support network with other families with children their age.
okay? Very good, thank you, Lori. Anybody have any questions? No.
Thank you very much for your time.
you.
Have a good day.
You.
Okay, Nick, we're ready for you then. You've got some road bridge updates for us? And some other items as well.
Good morning.
Morning.
First on the agenda for me is project updates. Included in your packet there. So the first update I have is the second project down is our 2018 box culvert contract with A&C Excavating. That work is complete. So right now, main thing left is wait till the spring and make sure the seeding comes up good, and then we should be able to final that out. So, moving on, next page, the top project listed there is Dunick Incorporated. That's our 2018 overlays. And included in your packet is a request for board action to approve the final payment. We're done with that one for the year. Seeding and everything's done, so be coming up in a few minutes here to get that finalized out and off the books. Same thing with the next project down, which is our 2018 gravel crushing contract with Hard Rock Screening. That work has all been completed. Turned out well. Got good quality material. So, and then as far as projects in the planning stage, I don't have any updates for that. That's all same as last month yet. Kind of wrapped up with construction for the year. We're trying to finish up some surveying before it gets too cold, and then we'll be our focus will shift back to the projects in the planning stage. So. The next item I have is it's a resolution. It's amending our prioritized bridge replacement list. We have 3 projects listed there. 2 of them are township. 1 of them is on one of our state aid roads. This is a list that gets done, I'd say annually. We need to send it to the state when we want to do a project. They have to have the resolution where the board says that, yep, we want to actually do this bridge. So no real items of note there. I guess the 2 township bridges are for Etna Township. Those structures are in pretty bad shape. They're going downhill really fast, so I think we'd like to probably try to do them this spring. They're actually on the other side of the ridge, so we don't have to deal with the Topeka Shiner requirement, so that's good. And then that's township bridge funds we can use for that, so it won't affect anything in our state aid system as far as programming goes.
Okay, if you'd like, we can go ahead and
Do
move
we need a
forward with this.
motion on that?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
I'd move to approve that.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded to approve this list of 3 priorities for for bridge replacements that needs to be sent to the state. Any further questions or discussions at all? What information do you use to compile this list? From previous inspections of the bridges?
Yes, we inspect every 1 to 4 years, depending on the condition they're in. You know, we kind of get a large group of them that they get in bad enough shape. We invite the state down and they look at them and say, yep, that's eligible for replacement. And we kind of fit them into our 5-year plan based on need and sometimes what road they're on. Like if it's a posted bridge on a low volume road, it might not get quite the priority of a posted bridge on a high volume road. Like for example, this County State Highway 3, that one got bumped up the list a little bit because we have an overlay programmed for that road. So we thought, well, instead of cutting this road open 2 years after we pave it, let's just bump this up 2 years and get let it settle for the winter and get everything packed in and get a nice.
If I understand from previous presentations, a lot of our bridges were put in about at the same time.
Yes.
So we're going to have a lot of them coming at one time. So that's why I was curious how we got just 3 of these. As far as go ahead.
No, that's not it. This is just a continuation of the list. We have a bunch that have had this resolution approved for them that haven't been replaced yet. Once we put something on the 5-year plan, we get this added.
Okay.
We add the resolution so we have that ready to go. If there'd happen to be an influx of money from the state, we're ready to go then.
Very good.
Maybe we'd shift something up in the 5-year plan. So,
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else any questions? Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve this resolution to the state for these 3 bridges. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
the next item I have is to approve the final payment for the 2018 gravel crushing contract. It was our 2018 contract. The contractor ended up crushing more. They were producing good quality material and they had a good bid price. We also were running very short of gravel because of the summer flooding. So we approved them to do an additional 25%. And I just have a note here that it actually, what they did actually ended up exceeding that by a little bit. They had an old pile of bituminous that we had removed off a project. I don't even know when. It was here before I was here. And we had them crush that too, and they saved that for the end, and it ended up being a little bit more than what they thought. But, you know, they did the work, and it was good material, so I'd recommend paying the extra.
Very good. It's recommended by Engineer Bergman to approve the payment for this crushing.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussions, questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
My next item is a request to approve the final payment for our 2018 overlay contract. Really no items to add. Everything went well. You know, we fought with the weather there. It's complete. The little bit of turf establishment they had is taken off. We're happy with it. So we just about get it off the books.
Okay. Very good. Yes.
Just a question on the 30,000 over the contract amount.
Nothing. I might have to look that up for you. When we put plans together, we kind of take our best guess at what it's going to take to.
Obviously, a volume difference of some
Yeah,
type.
yeah. I'm not. I'm not sure exactly where that was at. I know they had a lot of incentive, and that might actually cover the entire difference. That's right in the standard specifications book. We require them to hire a third party to do some testing on various aspects of the work, you know, the smoothness of the road and the density of the material. And just about every one of them came back with an incentive, which is fantastic to see because it prolongs the life of the road. So I know they had a lot of incentive. That might have been the whole difference right there, actually. It was that much, but I couldn't rattle that number off for you right offhand. But
So to clarify, then, in the contract, there's incentives in there for performance. And this
Yes.
performance exceeded,
Yes.
met or exceeded those minimums, so that's
Yep.
why there's additional financial.
yes, and it's not something that we just kind of dreamt up. That's in the state book that the state puts out.
Okay.
That's, you know, every county pays that.
Very good. Any further questions, anybody? Okay, we do need a motion to move on this.
So move.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the final payment then of the $71,333.92 to Dunick Incorporated. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
My next request for board action is to purchase cutting edges from H&L Masabi for $11,969.60. This is just our general, you know, materials for our cutting edges. Nothing new here, kind of restocking our inventory, so to speak.
And obviously, this was in your budget as well, too, because it's
Yep.
normal maintenance, normal
Yeah,
operating.
it's normal maintenance, but it's such a large dollar amount that
Right.
in the purchasing policy, we need to bring it up here, so.
I'd move to approve that,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Been moved and looking for a second. Moved and seconded to approve the expenditure of $11,969.60 for cutting edge replacements. All in favor? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Then moving on to our maintenance update for the last month. We've been doing ditch cleans. We've been doing some pothole patching, graveling. mowing and preparing for snow, and that's kind of where the cutting edge quote came from. Needed some cutting edges. Just kind of the normal stuff is what we've been after the last month. Last month, moving on, last month we did talk about, I brought up the possibility of purchasing a payloader loader to lock in this year's, the 2018 state contract price. So that's what I have there under that request for board action. We did get 3 quotes. The salesmen predict, historically, it's been around a 5% increase every year. So if we would do it in 2019, it'd probably be another $10,000-$12,000 it'd cost to do this. But it is a 2019 budget item, and this is 2018. So not saying we have to do it, but we just we found an opportunity to potentially save a few bucks. So we thought we'd bring it up and see what you guys have to say about it.
So if we understand correctly, then by committing to the purchase now, you'll save money versus waiting for a month to commit to this.
Yes, if we wait, well, the contract expires the end of the month, but we have to turn paperwork in before that, so it actually gets processed in time. So if we waited till January, we would expect to see another $10,000, $12,000 tacked onto this.
So the only question you're raising is that because we haven't formally adopted the budget.
Correct.
I don't see any problem to you,
No
at
issue.
Steve, because we certainly have vetted that budget quite a bit. It's just a matter of the form.
And half of this was actually budgeted in 2018, so
Right.
it's just the half of it that isn't actually here yet. We have the money in reserve, so, and we don't pay for anything until 2019. It doesn't show up till 19.
I guess hearing no objection, we'll just continue to move forward with this. It doesn't take formal action, but on that part.
How long will this take to get Nick this payloader? Just guess,
I think when we sign the paperwork, they start building it, so
relatively.
it'd take months, I would imagine.
Is the old trade-in still pretty dependable for?
Not for sure. I don't know the build date. It'd be March, April.
Right.
Is the trade-in pretty dependable yet, or is that gonna cost you some money to get through the next few months?
Oh, I would imagine we probably wouldn't use that one a whole lot. That's the one that was flooded, if you
Save it,
recall.
We certainly don't want to spend any money on that if we don't have to.
Exactly, yeah. And as you see the bottom quote there, Ziegler Cat wouldn't even give us a bid on it. It had some little rust on the cab, and that's the rollover protection device, and they didn't want to touch it, so.
So we don't need a motion to go forward at this time, just.
I do think we need to pick a specific one.
Yeah, we do to
Yeah.
sign the paperwork, I guess.
Of the 3 specific units then you've brought forward for us, we've got, do you have a specific recommendation on that?
Yeah, I would go with the John Deere 644K. No reason to think the Volvo was a bad machine, but the John Deere is a couple $1,000s cheaper, so.
I'd move to approve the purchase of the John Deere.
Okay.
Move forward with it.
Very good.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the John Deere for $203,489.00. And that includes a $36,000 credit for the trade-in of the case, the 1999 case. Any further questions or discussion?
That'll be paid in 2019, correct?
2000, yep, because half this was budgeted last year, and the other half is coming out of this budget.
19.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. Further questions or discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we've had a preference to move towards the John Deere in the last few years, correct? Like, that's the last few we've bought have been John Deere, haven't they?
Yes, yeah, we have 1 case and 2 John Deeres currently.
I think the staff was liking them better from what I heard too.
They could be, I guess. Generally, we just go with whatever's cheaper if we don't have a reason to go with one or the other. And that was the case here. It was really close.
Very comparable piece of equipment.
Yeah, they're both nice machines, and it this would has the coupler on it that would connect to all of our equipment now. So
Is there
it worked well.
And it is $2,000 less than the next closest bid, so.
Correct. Yep. if the prices were swapped, we'd have probably recommended the Volvo.
You might have been thinking perhaps the graders, the motor graders, I think maybe is where the guys have kind of a preference for the John Deeres, don't they? Or-
I think that probably depends on the operator. We have 1 deer and 4 cats, but,
That's what I was thinking, it was a
Yeah, it was
grader,
graders.
correct.
okay.
Yep, never mind. Thanks, Nick.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor of the purchase?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, the same. This passes unanimously.
Does anybody else have any other questions for me? Otherwise, that's all I have for.
I guess I would like to just touch base a little bit on the roads in connection with Stone Ray Wind Energy Project. I see that they're removing a lot of the radiuses they built up, and
I have yet to get a complaint on them.
that's nice.
That just blows my mind.
So would you say, is it safe to say that the roads are in as good as, if not better condition than before they moved in?
Oh, I don't want to jinx myself, but it seems like they're gonna turn out better. The gravel roads, anyway. Seems like they're gonna turn out better than, as good as or better than what they took them over in. So it's looking really nice
Very good.
so far. I mean, I'm sure there's spots, but they've been really responsive. And when they're taking these radiuses out, I see they're right in there, touching them back up nice, seeding them down, and getting their erosion control established, and just, I have no complaints yet anyway, so.
Does the state exert any oversight on that at all? You mentioned the erosion control. Do they have to comply with the same type of things that
Yep.
you do on road projects?
Yep.
Or all-
I don't know if there's anybody from the state that comes down and inspects it.
But from what you've seen, it's all,
It looks like they're, from everything I've seen, they're doing it textbook, so.
very good.
No.
Thank you.
All right.
A comment on, one, I've heard the same on the gravel roads. A lot of people have commented they think they're in better shape. And second, thank the state for patching up 23 because it needed it.
Oh, yeah, down that, down the center, and then they had
On the
another.
white line and the
Yeah.
center line.
Yeah, I can pass that on.
Yeah, that turned out pretty good.
Are you ready for winter?
We're working on it. We're getting the cutting edges now, so.
Very good. Thank you so much for your report, Nick.
Yeah, actually, one other thing just popped in my head. I talked with the Highway 23 Coalition. You asked for a little clarification on the turn lanes on 23. Didn't sound like they had anything necessarily drawn up, but he did, it's not Highway 23, but he talked a lot about trying to do some type of upgrade between 23 and 75 on 30, and kind of in that area. So it's not necessarily Highway 23, but it makes sense because it serves the traffic for Highway 23.
Just here in the city limits of
Yeah,
Pipestone.
yeah, and I told
Oh,
him
where
that,
they did that overlay here a year or so
Yeah.
ago, and it didn't
and then
hold.
it's got potholes in it already, and I told him that, well, I think you should probably look at concrete in there for sure, you know. It's turning motion, it's got severe wear issues already, and it's only a couple years old, so. So I didn't really get any big master plan for that item that they submitted, you know, the turn lanes in town, but it had something to do with that, I guess, so.
Yes.
Just another comment on that, when we went to that coalition meeting last week, well, when Lindsay and Cody were here, they made it sound like, you know, we'd have zero chance of getting any upgrade done. Amazingly, they already had estimated cost figures for that project to upgrade to concrete. And it was, at least on the top of the page of the list we were shown. So, I mean, somebody must be thinking about it.
Oh, okay.
So, at least, I thought that was encouraging. that-
Yeah,
I mean, at least they were taking it seriously, because they did have some, you know, cost figures and whatnot.
sure. I suppose there's so many different levels to MnDOT. They have different opinions in different areas. So, Cody and Lindsay, I guess that was maybe, or probably more Cody's opinion, but, yeah, I guess.
I just thought it
Yeah,
was maybe a hopeful sign.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
so-
that Maybe
yeah.
it wouldn't absolutely be a no. but-
Yeah, so, yeah, don't give up then, I guess, right?
Right.
All right, any other questions for anybody, or? Nope, all right, sounds good, that's all I needed.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it is 9:45. The next thing on the agenda for 9:45 is this discussion for the Finance Committee. With Tyler not being available right now, do we want to maybe touch on some of our other business that we've got, or do you want to take a short recess? See whether or not Tyler will be able to join us.
Let's take a quick recess. I'll get with
Okay.
Tyler and see if we can do that.
very good.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, it's 9:45. We'll take a brief recess. Thank you. Then maybe you can check with Bill too and see if Bill's available.
Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead. Welcome back. It is 10 o'clock. We'll reconvene from our recess. The 9:45 Finance Committee discussion that we had on the agenda, because of the commitments that Tyler Reich, our auditor, has got with the voting, he won't be able to be in attendance, and obviously as part of the Finance Committee, that's an integral part of that. So with everyone's permission, we'll just go ahead and table that for this. I don't think we need formal action on that. We'll just bring that discussion.
Table till the 13th?
Put it back on the 13th. Okay. Then moving down through the agenda, then in other business, we did have some new information, and Bill Folger's got some new information as far as our local access broadcast that we do of the DVDs that we make of the meetings, that there's another option as well too to get better exposure, so.
All right, good morning. So, back in December of 13, I'd presented to the board about taking our video of our board meeting and making it available online, not streaming live, but making it available after the fact. And we kind of looked at that, and we looked at some other counties that were doing it, and not very many were doing it at the time, but I did find a couple that were our size. But they were only getting about 6 hits a month per meeting. One of those being Douglas County, and they've just completely stopped doing it. But Steve and I were talking, and Dan and I were talking about it. Maybe we should start again, just see if there is some interest in it. So, kind of going off of what we did before, instead of paying and having our hosting provider host these videos, we'll just set up a YouTube account and just put the meetings on there and just see what we get. I mean, whether we do it for a year or two to see what we get, or just keep doing it. We're figuring that, it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. We still, we make a DVD now, so we'll have to rip that DVD back into a digital format and then post that up to YouTube is what I'm thinking.
So really, as social media has evolved, now it's more available, more ready available than what was back in 2013. So it's not going to be as big of an obstacle as it would have been at one time. It's a pretty doable thing.
Oh, it's doable and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know if you saw the board request from last time.
Mhm. Yeah, we got a copy of that 2013.
It's kind of like if we build it, will they come?
Right.
So I guess let's see, is kind of what I'm asking.
Okay.
What do you think the cost is going to be to do this? I mean, is it
It's going to be time for either myself or Bridget. So
have the additional time that not going to hurt
Well-
your other activities or?
well, I'm salaried, so
Yeah.
we'll make it work.
It's fine by me if you want to try this. I don't personally care about it at all, but if somebody wants to look at it, they can certainly come to the meetings too. It's not, you gotta be pretty bored to sit and watch this stuff. That's all you have to do in your life.
You got a question?
Yeah, Mr. What would the name be for the page then? Like just Pipestone County, or would it be Pipestone County Commissioner Meetings, or would it be just?
I think we'll just have a county account.
Okay,
And,
well-
so it could be for anything,
So-
and then we'll just have a category where we'll.
They access it through our website then?
I'm thinking, they just go to YouTube. We can put a link to
Link
that
off the website.
to
One of
that
the things-
channel right on our webpage.
Because one of the reasons I was asking is like for the promotional video that was made for the Casey Jones Trail, that would be something that maybe we could put on there too.
Put that on there too. Sure.
All that video is within our county anyway. That's why I was wondering if it was just going to be limited to our meetings.
Yep. There's some rules, like we got to really watch for any kind of
Copyright
copyright infringement.
Yeah.
So
We don't want to play music.
if the radio's playing in the background of it, your
We should be good there.
video will get banished.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Bill and I talked about this, and some of the meetings I've been to with other county administrators and things like this, and one of the things I've learned a lot about in the short term I've been here is that the word out there is trying to get community engagement, is what you're trying to do. Everything, just talked this morning, everything we do is public, unless specifically it's not. So if we're just, can let people have access to it easier instead of just having it burned to the disc, taken up to, the city for them to put on Channel 3. If you can do it on your own time, and maybe there's one thing that somebody wants to see, a specific part of the video we did or something that was going on, or somebody is interested in, like this morning, in the Head Start discussion. They can watch that and say, bye, I'm done. Just make it available. We won't know unless we try, and the cost is very small at this point, is, just changing it to digital and Bill and Bridget's time to do it. But let's try it out, see what we get some hits, try it out for a year, and take it from there. But anything we can do to, let people know really what we're doing and try to keep it, we're in the open, that's what we want to do. And, we're not penetrating very far with what we're doing with cable access. We really aren't. The city of Pipestone's doing it successfully. They're live streaming it virtually on theirs, and then having it available if you want to go back and look at something too. So I've gone back and looked at when they've talked about issues too. It's very simple. Look at the 2 minutes they're talking and you're done. So I don't have to sit home and on Monday nights at 6:30 and wait for it to come on if I want to see it. I can just go take a look and see what they did on that issue. So,
You have any idea how many people watch the public
I
access one
have
here?
no idea. There's no way to know. This way we will know,
Yeah,
because
right.
we will know a number of hits that we get, and we will have an
I think more
idea.
people watch the public access than we think, because I know I
I
hear
think
a
so,
number of
too.
people come in the store and mention that they watch, see us on TV or whatever. And I think the same thing, like, really, you sat through that? But, apparently they're interested, so they want to find out what's going on.
That also seems to be a certain group of people too, whereas I think with this, we'll attract other, younger groups of people.
Because of the
Get some more
technology and the availability. And
availability.
again, in the whole spirit of being transparent, this is another opportunity for us to reach out to the community. And
And specifically, we're not hitting, in your district, for instance, there's nothing out there other than,
And it doesn't play in
computer.
Edgerton either, does it?
And Edgerton gets it on their VAST, Jasper gets
Oh, they
it on
do?
their VAST,
Okay, so just Edgerton, Jasper, and
right, on their
Pipestone.
public access. That's what Pipestone does too, when we see it
But yeah,
there.
none of the small towns.
All right.
how much of a lead time, or are you ready to gear up? It's just going to be a matter of
I would say
Yeah.
this meeting even, we'd be able to get on.
very good.
And for the DVDs, we don't have to wait for the official action for the minutes to be approved. The video is what's going on, so we don't have to wait to publish it. So when these are done, Kathy's been pretty much taking them up to the city and getting them on within the next, get them into their next rotation on their carousel. So we can get the information out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the recording of the board meeting minutes and posting them on YouTube.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. It's moved and
Second.
seconded to approve the posting on YouTube videos of the meetings. Further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same.
All right, thank you.
Kathy, do you have some personnel items that you need to bring forward?
Yes, I do. I did hand out a copy of a termination of fee agreement letter, so this is what I wanted to bring to the board for consideration this morning. It's between Pipestone County and Kozlowski Insurance. And we did discuss this with the insurance committee as well, whether or not we wanted to continue the Kozlowski fee agreement for services. And you can see the very last page of the fee agreement is what they agree to provide to us, which is assist employees with plan election, assist employees with questions, claim issues, and then this past year work to make the transition from the service cooperative to Prime Health. And the cost right now is $9 per member per month. We just feel that with the availability of Preferred One customer service representatives, Prime Health insurance representatives to escalate the issues, myself, and just, I think we have enough resources the way it is without adding the Kozlowski fee agreement in as well.
Okay. Questions?
Move to approve.
Okay. Move to approve termination
of their agreement.
Okay.
And this would be, so I did say the end of this year. This could also be put on Commissioner's letterhead too. It's up to you guys, so.
Make it the end of the year if that's works for you.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got a motion. Need a motion and a second. Further discussion then with this.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, big reason we come to this conclusion too is we looked at how often or how much Kozlowski was used for services, and it just didn't reflect well, so.
As I recall, that was part of the thought process when we had changed to Prime Health last year, is to have this transition period with Kozlowski.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there ever really was any intent for this to be an ongoing thing, so certainly, I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise to Kozlowski.
So we did contact them in July, and they had helped around 10 to 15 people so far for the year.
Okay.
And we just felt that the return on investment wasn't really there.
Okay.
So.
So then, in this action that's on the table now, then, what is going to be the effective date of this then? Is it going to be
I think we
January?
said December 31st.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll put that together on letterhead for us to sign, then, is that what you'd like to do?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a 30-day notice period if you looked at the agreement, so.
Very good. Further discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor of terminating the contract with Kozlowski's? Aye. And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Steve, did you have any other personnel items to look at?
No, I do not.
Okay, so then we've got our committee reports as well, too. Luke, would you care to start with committee reports? Excuse me.
On Tuesday, October 2nd, we had MHA webinar at the hospital where we reviewed various election scenarios to show what we need to do moving forward. On Wednesday, October 3rd, at District 8 Land Use, Rock County reported they're going to have a dry cast concrete plant opening soon that'll be making hog slats. And they also have a rail transfer facility by Org that's going in. Jackson County reported they're going to have 500 megawatt of new wind projects going up. It's two different projects, but and then they also have an 1,100 acre solar farm by Brewster planned that's about 125 megawatts. Lyon County reported that Brow Brothers closed, so beer production is down in Lyon County.
Heard they're open again, Ms.
Are they?
Yep.
Okay, so they're picking up then.
They had issues, I was told, with their documentation and training
Oh, okay.
about how they, since they were under Department of Ag instead of Department of Health, there's a whole litany of things they had to do, they had to come up with, so.
Because I didn't know, I was at the Goodwill next to there one day, and I noticed they had a sign on their door, so I was kind of wondering if they were gonna reopen, but apparently they did.
Yeah, so that's,
Let's see, Cottonwood, apparently Prime Pork was challenging their assessment, but then they dropped the challenge in court. Runnings is still challenging theirs. This kind of goes back to that, maintaining your tax base, because, you know, bigger stores or utilities are trying to get out of their taxes and whatnot. They mentioned that lights for wind towers that are activated by radar to light up when planes are in the area, they're not proven yet, but we might start seeing them in the future, where they'd be basically motion activated and not be on, you know, blinking
Constant.
regularly or whatever. You know, well, I guess time will tell if, and they did mention that these flashing traffic approaching signs, like they have one by Holland at County Road 16. Cottonwood County had one where they wanted MnDOT to darken it so that it doesn't say traffic approaching when there isn't traffic approaching. I mean, currently it's blinking when there is traffic approaching, but it's always on, so sometimes people get confused if they don't read the sign fully, that, you know, it's when blinking that somebody's coming. But apparently, if you pressure MnDOT enough, they can make it so it goes off. And they at least did for theirs, and it's something we might want to consider for ours, just because it would make it easier. You know, I think people would understand it better. Let's see, Lincoln County mentioned Lake Benton, they're requesting treatment again, but they're waiting for a DNR response because they're usually not very cooperative on that. They mentioned they have a Pipestone system as a research barn in Verdi that apparently is a pretty top-notch operation. They mentioned that only certified tile operators can make tile repairs in fields with high voltage underground lines for wind projects. Is that
I hadn't heard that before.
okay? And they mentioned that the Department of Labor and Industry Legal and Insurance criteria are costly to be one of those certified tile operators.
Not to make the repair to the electrical lines, but to make the repair to the
Tile
tile
lines
lines.
where there's in the same field as high voltage underground
Yeah.
lines. And most of the counties reported more grain bins going up, and Lincoln County's ag plastic grant ran out, so they're debating whether they're gonna still take it for free. And then they also mentioned that there's a solar efficiency workshop for swine facilities in the St. James Fairmont area on the 15th of November.
Could you elaborate on the plastic? I didn't quite follow that.
Well, Lincoln County, I think, had I think it was a couple year grant through MPCA to take in egg plastics, those big white marshmallow
Silo,
bags
yep,
or whatever.
silage bags.
Yeah, and apparently they were accumulating them and then trying to, you know, bag them somehow in a bigger bag, and then they'd, you know, send by semi-loads to the cities or wherever they go. But now that their grant ran out, they're, you know, trying to figure out if they're gonna be able to keep it going, or, but, you know, I think they like it, but it's just a matter of, well, like everything, trying to figure out how to pay for it to keep it going. But, excuse me, overall, it seems like a pretty nice program. And there's a lot more of it than I think people realize. Let's see, on the 4th, Area 2 and RCRCA met, and we were informed the Lake Redwood dredging project is on hold pending a lawsuit brought by several environmental groups, one of which is the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, which is apparently a group of attorneys that just tries to take on different environmental issues. They're not so much concerned with the project, but the way it was funded. They'd rather they used regular general obligation bonds rather than the LCCMR bonds, because there's a slight difference in the interest rate, and they didn't want to have to pay that difference, which is fine if the legislature takes action and, you know, addresses it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, because that would be a lot easier than waiting for the court process to play out. My fear is that if enough time goes by, the cost of the project will go up enough, they won't have enough money to do it, which has happened once before, about 10 years ago. And then, of course, their other projects are delayed by rain, so they're kind of slow getting done this year. On the 8th, the Soil and Water Liaison Committee met on that building. Still hoping to co-locate with NRCS and FSA, but they're waiting to see if that Moriarty or whatever gets the bid from the feds. And then, of course, that same day, we had the Indigenous Day events and the concert and all that, and that went fine. On the 11th, went to Pipestone Forward. Dan was there also, and they talked about trying to develop new classes with Minnesota West, such as shrimp production, plumbing, water techs, HVAC, refrigeration, or swine techs, and obviously anything we could do to expand things there would be good for all of us. On the 16th, the hospital board, of course, met. On the 18th, at the Soil and Water, their insurance, they switched from the Southwest Co-op to PEEP. Because they will have a lower deductible and their premiums will be lower. They extended several cost shares due to the wet weather. They received a 319 grant, which they were one of 10 in the state to be accepted. And they're debating whether they should consider being either a fiscal or administrative host for One Watershed, One Plan for the Missouri River. But we're waiting to get more info on the workload and reimbursement rates to see if they want to bother with it or not. On the 25th, the Solid Waste Committee met. The carts are ordered. The education materials will be sent out with the carts attached to them. December 1st start date is tentative, and then they're hoping to move the roll-offs at that same time to the hazardous waste building. On the 26th, Chris and I went to the Highway 23 Coalition. First, we sat in on the executive meeting. Where they first they used to be, they defined the coalition as being basically from Marshall to I-94. Now with, different counties and entities getting involved, they extended the corridor from I-90 to I-35. They currently have over 100 members. About 2/3 of them are business and 1/3 are government entities. They are going to add some additional board members, which I'm trying to be one of those people, because I figure if we don't have any say, it's less likely our project will get considered. But I was encouraged by the fact that they did have cost estimates and whatnot, and at least somebody put in some time to do that, obviously. Paul Torkelson, representative from the Renville area, he was the main speaker and kind of celebrating the fact that they got the $110 million or whatever to do those two stretches between St. Cloud and Wilmer, even though they won't be done until 2023 and 2025 respectively. In 2020, they're going to do 4-lane from Highway 71 in Wilmer to that first turnoff to Wilmer, County Road 5. And I know some other stretches that they're looking at is Foley to Malacca, which would be another $100 million to 4-lane. They are looking at going just from that County Road 5 in Wilmer to Priam or whatever that little town is. But they figure that's going to be kind of expensive too, because they're having to buy right away. And I thought the funniest thing was when a guy from Hinckley was complaining that they were going to get 2-lane concrete, and he didn't feel that was adequate, that he wanted 4-lane. And Representative Torkelson told him, well, sometimes a bite of the apple is better than no apple at all. And of course, we were thinking, hey, we take that bite of the apple, because that's what we like, is 2-lane concrete. On the 31st, Halloween, I guess I was the first to complete open enrollment with Kathy on that new system. It seemed pretty easy when she did it, but I'm glad I didn't have to go try to figure it out myself. And just for, in case anyone was interested, for trunk or treat, we had 718 go through in 90 minutes. On the first, at AMC District 8, they did have a new staff organization chart created with more advancement opportunities as a retention effort for, I think Matt Hilgert, for one, got a, nicer position in addition to his current position to try to keep him around. I'm sure it's challenging to keep him when some of those, Twin Cities organizations or counties can pay him probably better and whatnot. There was an article in the Tribune that same day that spoke about MPCA extending a 30-day comment period for a dairy farm in Winona County that was then upheld by a Ramsey County judge. Now, how an agency can overrule state law and be upheld just seems like regulatory overreach to me. But hopefully today's election could correct that. The same environmental groups that are stopping the Lake Redwood dredging project are responsible for that lawsuit. And the Minnesota Agri-Growth Council, Minnesota Farm Bureau, and 5 livestock groups have sued MPCA asking for immediate halt to the extension. So hopefully that'll go somewhere. And then, of course, later that day, our top 5 priorities were established from our District 8. Sustained transportation funding was number 1. retaining the healthcare access tax and to preserve Minnesota Care and Medicaid funding, which of course will avoid shifting that cost to counties, was number 2. Number 3 was continued mental health funding, which will also avoid more cost shift to the counties. 4 was preserving the tax base related to the big box stores and utilities. And then broadband expansion was number 5. And it was mentioned that satellite and/or wireless, which I know we've done in some parts of our county, I mean, it's a nice short-term solution, but they're not seeing it as a good long-term solution because it's just not dependable during bad weather and whatnot. And then at Area 2 in RCRCA legislative annual meeting was after that. Just for knowledge sake, they had a CD renewal that they did, and they're gonna get between 2.7 and 2.85, and I'd like to know why we're not seeing anything close to that around here. They for the last few years have consistently been getting much better rates than we're seeing, and I think we need to start shopping around a little. But they did have, their main presentation was still on the Lake Redwood dredging project, just because hopefully it'll get to be done still. And some of the just stats on what they're planning to do is they want to remove 650,000 cubic yards from Lake Redwood, which will, right now it has an average depth of under 2 feet, and they'd like to have parts of it be 20 foot or more. They can remove it at about 150 cubic yards an hour, which means it's going to take a long time. They're looking at 2 to 3 years of dredging, about 305 days they figure it'll take. And they have to lift it 50 feet and move it 2.5 miles to get to the site where it's going to be stored. They can only have about 20% sediment versus 80% water in order to make it flow through the pipes. And then they have to decide on things like, should we remove trees or should we just let them sink to whatever depth we, depending on how much they find, it might be easier to just pull them out of the way and be done with it. And of course, the rate can be faster initially, but then it gets slower as the site fills up because you don't have as much room to put all this additional water on. And the site was expected to have a berm of 14 to 16 feet around the, acres that they're gonna be putting all this stuff on.
The spoils.
Yeah.
How do they handle the erosion of that water? If that's 80% water, where does that go?
It either has to settle out and then eventually go through tile or, culverts or whatever, or evaporate. So, yeah, it's gonna take a while. And they said the one good thing is where you wouldn't be dredging, of course, during the winter months. It gives it time to kind of settle out, or, you get rid of some, of course, just over those months if you're not doing anything or you're not adding additional.
What was the justification for this whole dredging project? Is it just for recreational use of that lake?
Not
or-
entirely. I mean, I think it's also just to have, recreate the storage capacity again, because, since there's a dam there, you're gonna still always have sediment deposited there. But, there's just no room, they've reduced the sedimentation rate by 75% over the last 20 years or so. But, there's just no room left because it's so full. And
For heavy rains, for runoff of heavy rains.
right. And of course, they would like to have the recreational use because they showed us plenty of pictures of people water skiing with pyramids of people and whatever. Obviously, you couldn't have done that for many years. I think the 60s was about the last time they said that could happen. And but yeah, it's basically just to create capacity to be able to refill it again over the next century or whatever. But that's why RCRCA was created 35 years ago, and they have yet to do it. Of course, now they do more monitoring and that type of thing, and they still get projects done, and that's about all I got.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Chris, you ready?
Yeah, Monday on the 8th, had a law enforcement liaison meeting. Really, it wasn't any new business. We just talked about different intersections in Pipestone that cause problems, possibility of stop or yield signs, but nothing was brought up for consideration for city council or the county for any changes. Mentioned the Highway 23 coalition just to get feedback, and deputies expressed they don't like the passing lanes for numerous reasons, but I've already touched on that in previous meeting. Tuesday the 9th, after commissioners meeting, Chairman Wildermuth and I had a quality board meeting with Brad Burris, Nick Harms, Jessica Scoop, and Nancy Johnson. Nancy Johnson only had 2 days away from her final retirement, a year after her final retirement. After that meeting, PCMC has good numbers, trending up in quality, so no concerns there. Tuesday 16th, PCMC board meeting. Monday, October 22nd, we had building grounds out at the Human Services Building. Commissioner Nath and County Administrator Steve Ewing were also present, and so we checked out their space needs, which we've covered as well in the previous meeting. We also did a little bit of walk around to kind of visualize where the dental clinic might go and other scenarios and whatnot. So one of the other needs that they did have at that building was their redesign of the receptionist desk. They failed on a Alice test immediately. Shooter was able to get behind that front desk within 2 seconds. So, but again, we've already brought that up. Friday, October 26th, I attended the Highway 23 Coalition with Commissioner Johnson, which he already briefed us on. I don't have anything else to add. Monday, October 29th, counties participating in technology. We've been in Morris. Commissioner Nath was also in attendance. Financial update was good, even though there's some big item hits on it with the purchase, taking on benefits and other things like that, but the numbers were still good. We'll come back in one of the next meetings and set the minimum reserve fund. It's just too early to kind of get going into those details yet. There's a proposed budget put out by EJ from Lyon County. It was well thought out, but it will need some work moving forward as we get to work with the company a little more. There's talk about the North Dakota counties. They would like to get into the JPA, but there's no, as a committee, we don't feel like growing at this time. We want at least wait a year or more before we even decide on, for one, taking on more services, let alone more counties into the JPA. But according to the JPA, it would, or the bylaws would allow North Dakota counties to join. So, speaking of joining, Lake of the Woods decided not to. After the purchase was already made from CPT for CPUI, Lake of the Woods wanted Jad's personal financials, which he was no longer willing to divulge at that time after the purchase was done. So because of that, they decided not to join. So, and really, after the meeting, I followed up with Rebecca Young and EJ on some concerns I heard from Joyce up in the assessor's office about the structure of the software committee. EJ both called Joyce personally and me personally too to, walk us through the concerns and whatnot. And sounds like that talk went well. And we got another meeting next month, and I think we're going to start toning it down after that. Likewise, attended AMC on the 1st, and that's all I have right now.
I heard some discussion at AMC District 8, very positive about this joint powers done with the technologies, and wasn't there even some discussion about payback? We're actually going to be maybe making money off of this? Is that correct?
Yeah, early look at it. For dividends back next year might be just like maybe $2,000 for now, for the first year. But yeah, moving forward, it's looked pretty positive there. Possibly within the 3-year payback for our entire thing. But again, we want to see where we're at. We talked to the staff. They felt like they could grow, take on more work if they needed to or wanted to, but at the same time, we're providing real high-quality service to all of our counties right now, and that's what we want to maintain, is that level of service. Not necessarily to make more money. Our service is a little more important right now.
Yeah, they're good. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Chris, one of the things you'd mentioned too was their space in their office was so limited to
It was.
take on any more people, and it
all the
sounded like it was really cramped.
All the cubicles were filled, and they had basically a horseshoe shape of the building, and in that horseshoe on both sides there was a little small desk with a little guy in a chair typing code with no walls around him or anything. So already I kind of feel like they're already maxed on space.
Yeah.
It just didn't, I don't know.
It was kind of like two buildings that were side by side, and they put doors on each, or open up the wall on each end, so you just walk around one building, and then back on the other side, another building.
Yeah, but I don't know, I could see down the line where they'd come back and ask for office space. Because I assume they're in a different type of building. When I heard all this, yeah, it's pretty tight where they're at. They don't seem concerned about it, but just wait.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Bruce, you ready?
Yeah, didn't have a lot. The first we had a plan ops meeting, Les and I were there, discussed a lot of this. Same ongoing hospital issues that we're all pretty much familiar with. Bricks that are cracked and so on.
Yep.
Second floor project. The second, we had a webinar at Pipestone at PCMC. Dan and Luke were also there that evening. And then on the 17th, they had a Plum Creek Library Board meeting, and that was a good meeting. Pretty much the same issues of financing, the delivery trucks wearing out, and the same old information pretty much. So nothing new coming, but they are going to want more money to operate, and at some point they'll be coming with a request, I'm sure. But I did inform them that we had just kind of preliminarily approved the $2,500 increase for next year for computers and truck and delivery truck costs, but
That includes the truck?
that's to be used for that, yeah.
Okay.
But they all haven't decided to do that yet either. Some of the counties have not. So it's kind of, it's hanging there. But I said we haven't finalized our budget, but we had talked about that, is what I said. So, but that's all I have. So.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Les?
Well, on the first, had plan ops, basically the same few issues, the showers and remodel upstairs, and that's progressing, so. Then on the fourth, I had Prime West. There wasn't a lot talked about there. You were at that meeting, right, Dan?
Yep.
There wasn't a lot of issues, just touch base on Southern Prairie and stuff. But then on the first, at that meeting, they talked about South Country. I think it was a year and a half ago, we took on doing some of their work for them, processing claims. And after the meeting the other day, I kind of think South Country's on a slippery slope on a toboggan, and they're running out of snow. They wanted to know if they could get some of their money back to help them out for a little bit. And no.
Okay, maybe elaborate a little bit on that as far as the new counties coming on board with Prime West then. That all but Rock County, because Yellow Medicine is new, is that right? Or were they one of the existing ones?
No, Lac of Pearl.
Lac of Pearl, they're new coming on as well, because they were kind of on that.
They were sitting by themselves,
Yeah.
and they wanted to join.
Yeah,
And the money wasn't an issue. Well, it was an issue, but they said they had to go to Prime West. I thought it was the best thing for their county.
so that's going to increase the total membership then in that joint powers to how many counties?
26.
26. Yeah.
No, 25.
25.
Then 26 with Rock.
Yeah. And maybe we're on that, or it would get to Southwest Health and Services, Southwest Health and Human Services as well. That is an area of concern, is the reimbursement rate with the Rock County being part of Southwest Health and Human Services and not being part of Prime West. So elaborate on that a little bit, or?
Well, we got the same thing with Southwest Mental Health. I think they're gonna have to do some serious paperwork at the end of the year. They're gonna have to write a check to make it equal. Or what's the sense of having a joint powers?
Right.
And a lot of it stems from the reimbursement rate. The Prime West has a much better reimbursement rate for Medicare, Medicaid type things. Home visits, for example, Medicare, Medicaid will pay $20 for a home visit, whereas Prime West is $120 for that exact same home visit.
104, I think.
104,
Reimbursement rates. That's why I say that there's gonna have to be some paperwork done to keep track of.
And you think Kyle's gonna write that check?
No, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna pull out and go on their own.
Of Health and Human Services.
And Southwest Mental Health. I look for that to happen.
I wonder if the state will let him.
Well, they can pull all the joint powers, but I'm looking for the state to step in and force them into this, into Prime West. But it's already been discussed at Prime West that if the state forces them in, they have to pay the price, but they have no voting rights. That was part of the buy-in before the 1st of October, is your voting rights.
Right.
So. Okay, then on the 8th, we met with Soil and Water about their new building. We kind of talked about that, or Luke covered that. On the 10th, we had Southwest Health, or Mental Health. There was a presentation by one of the workers on assertive community treatment, and you got to kind of bless these people that do that work. It's all from like 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock at night. It's a different life schedule than what I'd want. Then they went through the quarterly contract hours. Pipestone, I believe, was at 102%. Most of the counties are way over. I think one of our biggest holdback is our building. So, then on the 22nd, we met at Family Services for the office space, and Jeff has been contacted.
Yep.
Any word from Jeff?
Not yet. He's working on a little drawing for us at this point.
Okay, has he been up there, or?
I don't know that he has.
Okay,
This is Jeff Nelson that had worked on their remodeling project back in 2015, and also the same Jeff Nelson, before any of you were commissioners, that worked with Baldridge and Associates on the courthouse remodel here. So he's got a history with the county, and he did the last one.
and I believe we had Jeff here a couple of years ago, didn't we?
We had
Walk
presented.
through the courthouse again
Yep.
Yeah.
on a bunch of different issues.
Yep.
So, but when Jeff's available, I could meet with him up there, so.
I think we met with him when we were dealing with the paint falling up in the courtroom.
Right, right. Yeah. That was what got him here, and then we toured the whole building. Okay, then on the 23rd, had a pre-demo meeting here in the commissioner's room, or community room next door, with the contractor, Bolton Mink, most of the people involved, environmental people. And then on the 29th, went with Commissioner Hollingsworth up to Morris for a CPT meeting, and very interesting. It was voted on and approved to hire the new director, Les Bruns. He has a number of years of experience and has owned and built a business very similar. So, and he lives by Alex right now, so he's coming out of retirement to help us move this along. So we felt really good about him. And I guess that's the end of my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Before construction meeting, did the city give them the rights to crush stuff over here?
That's
now?
coming up the 14th.
It'll be a week from tomorrow. There's a public hearing. The city's got a public hearing set for that. The concerns that they had were noise and dust, but the owner of DRG, Dave, help me with his last name. Had said that this piece of equipment that he's got is for dust control. He can do it just with a garden hose. It's an enclosed unit, and it doesn't pulverize the material. It actually has pincher blades. It'll bite through it. So Doug Fortune has got a video off of YouTube that shows it in action. So that'll be some of the things they'll present at this public hearing. But still,
It'd be nice if they get that settled so he can plan
Move forward.
what he has to do.
yeah, it doesn't change his contract with us because he's already committed with or without having to haul it. So.
The other thing, you probably won't notice much go on over there, because his plans is you go through the ag door and work from the inside out.
Yeah.
And then at night, you can pull the door down, all of his equipment is secure.
And it's salvage material too, because there's a lot of value in salvage material there as far as scrap, copper and so forth.
for that, that's.
Yeah, it's gravy. for
Right,
them.
yeah.
Just curious, did they mention where the hazardous material will end up going?
I believe he's intending to use Double D's pit, because Double D's pit is
Well,
classified.
that type of stuff that's got to be removed and hauled out, I think that goes up the city's direct.
It does.
Using a company called J&J, which is the same company that did the Metrodome also when they demolished that.
Yeah, but there's different classifications. You're talking, that is like ballast and bolts and
Regulated
so
waste
forth.
versus the asbestos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the asbestos hazardous, that will go into Double D's. I believe he's going to use Double D's
I think
pit.
so.
Because
Oh,
that
that
is
can go
licensed,
there.
because that is a licensed hazardous pit.
Okay.
I think the only restrictions are, from what I understand from what Doug has told me, is that the stuff has to be covered daily. You can't leave anything for the wind to blow
Right.
it around. Yeah. In fact, I'll probably touch on that some more as I go through my list. Again, October 2nd, you mentioned the hospital webinar that we did. The next one I had then was October 4th, and that was the Prime West meeting up at Alex he touched on. There also was a fall conference up there. That was the 5th, but that interfered with another schedule. Well, that's when we had another, we weren't able to go to that conference up there. I don't recall what the conflict was. But that basically is a provider conference that they had. On the 8th, law enforcement, I wasn't able to attend that. Thank you for covering for us as well, representing us there. On the 9th, then it was when we had the quality control meeting in the hospital that Chris was at as well. On the 11th, Pipestone Area Coalition, this is the alcohol coalition we got out to school. Steve Beekman has accepted a position down in Woodbury County down by Sioux City, so he's already moved down to there. It's be working directly for the county in their health department. And Southwest Health and Human Services is doing a search right now to replace his position. As you recall, this was a 4-year grant, federal grant. Well, I think it was a 4-year grant with the expectation it had to be backfilled for another 5, so it's actually a 5-year program with a 4-year grant, and we're about halfway through it at this point. So there is, from what I understand, there are a few interested parties that have applied for it, so I think within a short time we should be able to backfill that position. On the 2nd then, Southwest Health Consortium, it's the Southwest 18 Mental Health Consortium. They had their annual meeting up at Redwood Falls. Along with that, they had presentations then about some of the ramifications of this election today, how that could or could not affect where they're at as far as funding some of the different programs. We'll always talk about the unfunded mandates and the issues with beds, especially mental health beds, and trying to fill those needs. And as we talked before about the high cost of having inpatient up in the Twin Cities for mental health issues, so trying to alleviate some of that. So it's still a big issue with them. On the 5th, I had my SMOC, Southwest Minnesota Opportunity Council meeting down in Worthington. That's also partly where Lori Gunnick works out of as well too with the Head Start program that she gave us an update on today. Gave us an update on this new building that we talked about. The classrooms are being built, and that's in the southwest corner of Worthington is where that's being built. So then on the 23rd, then we had the pre-demo meeting that we talked about. The other thing with that pre-demo meeting while we're there, as you know, all that material, once the contract was signed, is now in the possession of the contractor. He owns everything, lock, stock, and barrel. He did say that he was very, very gracious. The cornerstone that we were made aware of from the museum, there is a cornerstone in the building. It was placed in 1918. It was hollowed out. In the back of that, there is, according to this newspaper article, a time capsule. So the museum has put together a commemoration program that'll be done this next Saturday at 11 o'clock. I have been involved with them, but really it's real specific that it's their program because I want to have that distinction that the county is out of this at this point once we sign the contract. So in that newspaper article that the museum found from 1918, when that cornerstone was laid, it talks about an American flag being placed in that time capsule, a copy of the 1918 County Star talking about the fire that took the other building down. Also a list of the faculty, the graduating class, the school board, the county commissioners, and some other artifacts. So it'll be interesting to see when that's opened up what's actually in there. Maybe it'll be an empty box. Who knows? Or maybe there'll be some antique coins that'll be very valuable. Who knows? Huh?
Maybe the flag is one that got 13 stars.
That's right. That's right. I think it's going to have 48. Of course, as you recall, that was the very end of World War I. So very, very interesting time in our history. But in case of inclement weather Saturday, we don't know what the forecast is going to be. The cornerstone itself, the city is helping with their skid loader and a jackhammer to get it popped out of there. And we'll have a forklift that Pipestone Building Materials is going to let us use for this as well too. We'll put it on a pallet, and there'll be bleachers set up there. There'll be a little platform and a podium and microphone and so forth. But if the weather's bad, then we'll just move it into the armory. The armory's going to be backup for us as well too.
I'm just thinking, is there any chance that that flag can be contaminated with the flu virus that was going around that year?
Pandemic. Could be. Could very well. I know that Susan Hoskins from the museum said she'll have gloves on, of course, to preserve the artifacts. I don't know if she's concerned about biohazard or not.
Well, it's something to think about because it was a pretty big deal. I mean,
Yep.
quite
Yes,
a
it
few
was.
people died from that.
Yep. One more thing to worry about. And then all those items, then, like I said, will be the possession of the museum at that point. But just thought it was very important to give that building a little bit of respect that's been due over these years. Again, it's a centennial. It's been 100 years since that was built. Don't know what to expect for a turnout there, so we could have 10 people or 200, who knows, huh?
Maybe Geraldo will show up and we'll get it on TV. Dan.
That's right. Looking for
Al
Al Capone's vault.
And it'll be empty.
There's nothing there.
Tuck's tomb or whatever.
So if you guys have an opportunity, please support that as well too. So then on the 24th, we had our transit meeting here with Kathleen. One of the items that she brought forward was concerns about the bus barn, and I let her know that that's what she's got. I thought made it real clear that if she was looking for any financial support from us to put up a new building there, that it wouldn't be. In my opinion, I doubted that would be forthcoming. On the 25th, then, what's that?
Can't be that old, is it?
That building, I think, was built in the
40s, I believe.
late 40s, because of course that was the DOT
Right.
shop.
It's been re-roofed and whatnot. hasn't it?
Re-roofed, it's got vinyl siding on it. Yeah, it's not a Taj Mahal, it's a bus barn. So
No, actually, it's in talking to her, it's more than that because their drivers actually, in there they work. That's where their little office is in back, and the plumbing is horrendous. The bathrooms are total crap in there. They haven't been touched since 1948, basically. And it's not, and there's no CO monitoring to get rid of CO fumes, anything like that. It's not up to spec by any means. And we did have a talk one day. Kathleen came in last week. If I can go on for a second here.
Yes, please.
That she came in and we chatted about it a little bit, and thought about what you had said. I said, there's no way the county's going to build this, but I do know that the lot next door is doing nothing. And I said, possibly, maybe that land could be put to use for you to help put your garage on both of those parcels where it's at now. Because their plan is the bus garage would not look like this now. Theirs is, it's one door in, one door out, and then when you're inside, all the buses are lined up in chevrons on the inside. So it's not like a fire hall garage or anything like they've got now. So they would do it differently. But as far as us funding the garage, I said there's no way that the county's going to pay for that to do that. But but this could be an in-kind for you to maybe get some of your funding through MnDOT by utilizing the old Booker lot. I mean, it's just sitting there doing nothing. We talked about using it as a gravel parking lot at one time. But the idea would then be they could come off of Highway 75 on the driveway that's there in the Booker property, go around the back, enter it from the north, and go out to the south and replace it that way. And I said, as far as if you're going to build this, as far as you needing space for buses during that time, I know we can help find space at the fairgrounds and all that for the months you're going to be building to store stuff during that time. But there are ways we can work with them on this without building them the garage, and, we want to, be, obviously, hopefully, you can be a good partner with them too, but, they've got to figure out how they're going to do it, and they've got a lot of other issues with where they need to put buses and garages around their territory there. They got quite an expansive, geographical area they're dealing with, not just in Pipestone County, but.
Maybe elaborate a little bit too on the caveat with that existing property, because that was state DOT.
Oh, it's deeded to the county on a quitclaim deed. As long as it's used for transportation purposes, it remains ours. But if it were ever to be like sold or anything like that, obviously, then it would revert back to MnDOT. So that's why we got a quitclaim, not a warranty deed on it. So as long as we maintain that it's used for transportation and public purpose, which we're responsible for, then we're okay on that. But yeah, absolutely, we can't just, we could not sell it to them or anything like that, to UCAP. Obviously, they're a private organization now, and we are the county, so it's ours as long as we maintain it in a public purpose.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I've got that piece of paper sitting in the file. It's recorded in the recorder's office, too. So I'd given Dan a copy to give to Kathleen, so she had a copy of that, too, so understand.
And she was aware of it as well. So.
Now she's got it on paper.
Then my last meeting for the month then was the solid waste committee meeting that we had on the 25th. You've already touched on as well too. There was one item back on the pre-demolition that I wanted to point out as well too, and how Dave has been so very good to work with on this. We'd had the discussion about reusing the court site, and there'd been some question at one time about whether it was contaminated or not contaminated. We got clarification on that, and apparently it was the caulk that was used around the windows that has been tested to have asbestos in it. And there are apparently some expansion joints as well too. But as far as the regular grout and tuck pointing, that is not. Mm-hmm. And Dave said that he is more than willing, because to him it's just surplus material. He doesn't have any real end use for it. So he said the county can have as much of that as they want. He was concerned about safety and security of the site, so instead of the city or the county being involved with hauling that out of there, he says, no, he says, I'll load it up with my equipment into my trucks and I'll deliver it to where you want it. So we won't have anything to do with it.
But the county doesn't want any, to my knowledge, do we?
Actually, the city has got space on the east side of the berm out by the tree dump where it could be stockpiled out there for future use. For example, if the Veterans Committee had made a request for having some court site, some Sioux court site, that'd be available for them there
If
as
the
well.
city wants to take that on, that's fine, but I mean, we don't want to store it or.
No, we won't be involved in it whatsoever, because like I said, we no longer own it. at
Right,
this
we're
point.
out of it.
Once we sold that, or once we signed the contract with the contractor, it's all his. And he's willing to give that material back to the community, the city. City's got a spot to store it.
I just hope they don't store it and then eventually they have to pay to get rid of it.
Actually,
Their problem.
It would be, correct.
it really isn't a problem, because that's valuable stuff. It really is. And if nothing else, it could always be used, if it can't be repurposed for buildings and so forth, the decorative things, it can always be used for riprap as well too, so it's valuable. He is also the limestone. He said you can have some of the limestone as well. We don't know how well that's going to survive coming down because it's so brittle. And we always hear people wanting to have souvenir bricks, so he'll give us a payloader bucket full of bricks too. So
I don't think
20
the
bucks a
county
piece.
wants, when you say us, I don't think you're speaking for the county.
the community, he will give us, the community.
City of Pipestone wants it, that's fine, but I
Right.
don't think the county wants to get involved
Right.
in that
Right.
at all, personally.
And he did say he doesn't want people coming up to him and asking for a brick there. I'd say that's not what he wants, because
No.
they'll have souvenir seekers and stuff like that.
Just stay away from that and let the city deal with it.
Yeah.
If they want something, they better talk with him, because it's certainly,
And the city was at the pre-demolition meeting, and it's all fine, it's all good to go.
But as we found out at the hospital, if you want to preserve like that limestone archway or whatever, it was a more than six-figure deal
Oh, yeah.
to move it and rebuild it or whatever,
you
so,
gotta get it down, you gotta get it apart, you get it.
yeah.
Right.
It's a big money deal, so I can't imagine anyone wanting to step forward to pay for that.
People have dreams, but usually end up to be shattered dreams.
Yeah,
Right.
and the Ashton building, of course, that was intended to preserve that, so that was taken down stone by stone and everything else, and that's just not in the cards here. It's gonna knock it down, and if some of that limestone can be repurposed, fine, but like I said, it's so brittle, I don't know if much of that limestone is gonna survive.
I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody wants it, they gotta talk to Dave. We're out of the picture. All we're doing now is paying the bills.
Yep.
Right.
So it's like, we're done.
That's right.
Thank God.
And I guess as far as update, he's still, Dave is still planning on starting here yet in November. He said up in Litchfield, he had a couple of things, the weather was holding him up a little bit, but he'll be moving in. And you talked a little bit about his plan is to actually bring his equipment inside and close the door and then tear it down from the inside. So he actually won't get to those outside walls until next spring, the way it sounded.
Yeah. Yeah, how much of the roof is gone now?
Didn't you have
I had videos from a year and a half ago.
drone?
And there was some hole.
Well, I mean, even a few years ago when I went through, there were holes big enough you could fall down laying down and
Yeah.
easily.
In the gymnasium, I think on that north side above the mezzanine, I think there's a huge spot of the roof missing there, isn't there?
Okay.
Well, do you want me to get a hold of Edison, have him go fly it for us? It'd take him about 15 minutes to do it.
It would be a curiosity thing,
Yeah,
but
just
sure.
for curiosity, just have him go fly the drone over the top of it and take one last look for posterity and see where the holes are. I have no idea where they're at now either.
And then we could have him fly over during demolition.
Demolition.
That would be interesting to kind of have a,
Well,
Gotta do
Dave
something.
does have cameras, so if he's away, he can go on his cell phone and see what's happening.
It's part of his security, yes. Yep,
neat.
Yeah, he doesn't want to lose salvage stuff over there.
no.
Because there's copper and a lot of good salvage over there.
Travis Jasper didn't get into the cornerstone, did he?
Ah.
If we,
I don't know, is he still on the list?
Do we ever get paid?
No.
no. No. But that concludes my report as well, too. Any further questions or discussions about anything else on the agenda? I think we got things pretty well wrapped up. Talk about our upcoming meetings. December 4th, we've got the board meeting has actually been canceled for December 4th
AMC annual.
because of the AMC annual. Yep.
And all your rooms are reserved in your
Isn't
name?
AMC technically the 2nd to the 4th?
Correct.
3rd through the 5th, it says on here.
Sunday
The
through
night
Tuesday.
before, so.
Yep.
Yeah, so Sunday's the 2nd,
Yeah, it's Sunday through Tuesday.
right?
Yeah.
And you've got everybody registered for that's going?
Yep.
Yep.
Kathy's also going to.
And then we got our TNT meeting then December 10th here in the Commissioners' Room at 7 o'clock. Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
very good. Moved and
Second.
seconded to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. That's pretty unusual, Bruce.
What's that?
You didn't get to get the motion to adjourn.
I was gonna leave anyway.